Welcome back to Ile I's Babaluaiye Healing Ritual. Hope you have been enjoying seeing all of our presentations and you are set and ready for another wonderful presentation on healing of the mind.
Cabo, I am Baba Obasanjo, and I want to welcome you to Ile Imole's Babaluaiye Healing Ritual. Today, what I'm going to speak about is how spirituality is able to heal the mind. I'm going to chant an Odu from the Odu Ifa, and then we'll see how that relates to how spirituality can heal the mind. Ebajea peo nibi oyekundi. Oyekundi awo eshu. Lodifafo eshu. Tin shobokbo harun. Tin aju atidide. Inje eshu. Akbagi. Akin lakailu. Otirubo. Oyekundi oye. Orubo. Oyekundi oye. Otirubo. Oyekundi oye. The story that goes with this this essay Ifa from Oyekundi is that Eshu found himself to be ill. He found himself to be ill. He was in bed. He couldn't get up. He was just very lethargic in bed. So Eshu called his diviner Oyekundi, and Oyekundi divined for Eshu and told Eshu that what you need to do is you need to propitiate the Ori of your friend Bata. And then, so Eshu heard what the diviner had said, or Yekundi had said, and he sent a message to Bata and told him he had to come to his house, and so that he's able to help him with this ritual. So when Bata heard that Eshu wasn't feeling well, he decided what he was going to do is to come to Eshu house in the morning, and just to help him out. So he sent a message to Eshu. I'm coming in the morning to provide you some assistance, my friend. When he got there, Bata started to drum. When he started to drum, the drum was saying, Eshu, Akbagi, Akin Lakailu, Otirubo, Oye Kundi, Oye. And, Eshu heard that. When Urshi heard that, he's like, oh, that's like some nice music that's being played. So Eshu got out of bed. He maybe looked out the window. Oh, yeah, there's my friend Bata. So next thing you know, he was like outside the house, and next thing you know, Eshu started dancing. Eshu started feeling better because of the drumming that Bata was playing, and then him and Bata went all over town because Eshu was feeling much better, dancing and playing drums. So what the lesson is for us is that we see that Eshu's illness was not really a physical illness. It was more like a psychological or a mental type of illness that he was having. And once he was able to do his ebo, once he was able to apply the spiritual principles to the situation, then that's how Eshu got much, much better. So what happened was he was able to get healed and come out of bed and feel much better by doing the spiritual aspects of what it is that I have to do. And he didn't take any medicine, he didn't do anything like that, but it was just a matter of him doing the divination and knowing that, and the diviner knowing that that is what his issue was, and that he was able to be cured by that. So like I said, that's a great lesson for us. It shows us that what we need to do is that we need to apply spirituality within our daily lives so that we're able to see how it is that it can affect our mind. Because sometimes what it is that's happening in our lives is not really a physical issue. What is happening in minds, it might be like a psychological issue. And what it is that they found is that actually now, in contemporary times, they found that if someone has a good spiritual foundation, if somebody has things that they have spiritual practices, then what happens is a lot of times those people are able to navigate life, and their mental, emotional, spiritual lives are much better than those people that might not have any kind of like spirituality to direct their lives. So I believe that that is the message that Ifa has for us as far as how is it that you can use your spirituality, How is it that you can use that spirituality in your life so that you can have much better outcomes? And a lot of research has been done, and they've shown that that yes, spirituality, and yes, if you have like a very deep spiritual belief system, that it's a much more likely that you would be less likely to have like any psychological and or mental type of issues. So that is what it is. My message for you today. I am really hoping that you enjoy the Babaluaiye Healing Ritual. It is an excellent ritual, and you'll be getting lots and lots of information so that you can utilize that information so that it can help you in your life and improve your life. Thank you so much, and enjoy.
Hello, my name is Uchenna Ezibe, and I'm here to discuss the concept of becoming Omoluabi. Renowned Babalawo, Dr. Wande Abimbola, describes Omoluabi as a function of exhibiting and demonstrating the inherent virtue and value of Iwapele. Dr. Abimbola goes on to explain that Iwapele is good or gentle character and is ultimately the basis of moral conduct in Yoruba culture. Omoluabi is a concept, but one can also be an Omoluabi, and the closest English translation is probably complete being. Omoluabi can be recognized through a set of principles of moral conduct, with the most fundamental of these principles including Orosiso, spoken word, Iteriba, respect, Inurere, having good mind to others, Otito, truth, Iwa, character, Akinkanju, bravery, Ise, hard work, and Opolopipe, intelligence. Now, these are only a few of the core values of an Omoluabi, but consistently in my research, I saw these 8 attributes come up again and again. Now, we'll return to these attributes in a bit, but now I'd like to discuss some of the systems used for development into an Omoluabi in Yoruba land, and how some of those systems can be considered in our own efforts in the diaspora. An interesting point that I found is that there is no universal rites of passage process or ritual for adolescence in Yoruba land. Instead, a child is initiated into the mysteries of his or her family. I'll read a short passage from OrishaLifestyle.com describing this process. Through the training and orientation they receive in the professional societies, or Egbe, the youth come to understand themselves as heirs to the ancestral legacy. And so, there is a common thread of consciousness amongst all youth that since the ancestors and their craft were never disgraced, the youth themselves will also escape disgrace. To ensure continuity of excellence from one generation to the next, the youth typically learn to supplicate their ancestors and professionally related deities before performing their duties. Now, ancestral reverence is an important aspect of many cultures around the world. What's unique here is that the ancestors aren't only seen as spiritual guides to give honor to, but are also seen as links in the same chain as the youth. The ancestral lineage is an integrated concept, and the way the youth conduct their craft is seen as inspiration, or is driven by and inspired by the same way that their ancestors conducted their craft. So let's continue. And so, as a youth progresses from apprentice to journeyman to master craftsman, he will learn to recite the Ijuba, which invokes the members of his bloodline who have passed down skills, distinguished themselves in the industry, and contributed to the family name. Likewise, they will learn to invoke the particular aspects of the Orisha associated with their family craft. That is, a carver and a hunter will both invoke the Orisha Ogun, but whereas the carver is more apt to recite those Oriki that emphasize Ogun's creativity, the hunter will focus more upon his knowledge of plants and animals. Both would learn how to perform basic Obi divination and appeasement. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that A key part of becoming Omoluabi is the integration of the spiritual into the conventional. One's craft is performed in a way that gives honor to your ancestors. One calls upon deities with affiliations to your field in order to guide your work. This begs the question, how integrated are our spiritual practices into our conventional lives? This is something that is very clearly encouraged amongst other spiritual practices. Those of us who have some familiarity with the Christian path might be familiar with quotes like, neither shall they say, lo here or lo there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Or, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. These quotes encourage the integrated nature of spiritual development, and the same concept can be found within many, many other spiritual paths throughout the world. Integrated spiritual development is personal development. So now that we've looked a bit at the how, let's return to the what. What does Yoruba culture say about the 8 attributes we introduced earlier on? As we know, Proverbs serve as a central vehicle for wisdom within African culture. I'll present a few Yoruba proverbs pertaining to these virtues of Iwapele, which are the key components of becoming an Omoluabi. I'll provide a couple thoughts on potential interpretations of these quotes, but I encourage you to think about how they apply to your own personal development. We mentioned earlier that the journey of becoming an Omoluabi is distinct for each individual. I can't sit here and tell you exactly how to develop your own Iwapele in the best way. There are certain positive virtues we should all strive to attain, but the road to realizing them is different for us all. Through learning from each other and considering various methods, however, we can improve our own strategies. So let's begin with orosiso, or spoken word. For the Omoluabi, spoken word must be intelligently and expertly used. This is important since it isn't enough to be intelligent, but you must also use your intelligence effectively. The quote aligned with this attribute is, "It is words that draw coconut from the pocket or arrow from the quiver." Now, we can interpret this quote in various ways. Words can either draw a positive reaction or a negative reaction from the person that you are speaking with, right? The kola nut is often seen as a symbol of communion or a symbol of union between two individuals. And I think the arrow coming from the quiver is fairly obvious. However, it's important to note that the quote doesn't say, "It is words that bring a kola nut to me or make me get shot by an arrow." Okay? The words draw the kola nut or the arrow from the quiver, right? So the words are the literal activating force of the reaction that you are facing. The words don't cause someone to have that reaction. The words themselves can be the impetus for that action. This shows the power of the spoken word. We all have situations where, well, I won't say all, but I say I've had situations, especially in my youth, where certain words might make you see red or might bring a reaction out of you that feels totally uncharacteristic. And you know, the words are not an excuse for that reaction, but it's important to note that words can be so powerful, they can cause people to act in ways that they may not even necessarily be very conscious of. Now, how can we take this concept, right, of the spoken word and bring it into our lives here in the diaspora? What are ways that we can develop our own spoken word? Well, there are multiple. There's journaling, right? Because clear writing often leads to clear speech. And one of the hardest things to clarify is our mind. So journaling leads to a clear mind, which helps lead to clear speech. How else can we develop our spoken word? listening closely. Because if we're not good listeners, no matter how intelligent our response might be, it won't be expertly crafted to the situation where we find ourselves. And I encourage you to think about other ways that we could develop our spoken word here as African spiritual practitioners in the United States. So let's consider another quote related to iteriba, or respect. If a child has clothes like their father, they cannot have rags like him. This quote says a lot of things for me. It shows the sacrifice of the ancestors and of our family members that have paved the way and come before us. And in such a tangible way as well. If you look down and you see that you're in nice clothes, there's no way to separate that from the efforts of whoever helped you get to where you are today. So if you have those nice things, it's impossible to say that you went through the same struggles that those individuals did to help get you to where you are. Now, of course, we all have our own individual struggles, and those struggles might be more extreme than a lot of those who have come before us have maybe experienced. You know, I'm not here to pass judgment on anyone's personal journey. But what's important to note is that the struggles of those that came before you equipped you to face whatever struggles you might be facing today. So even if the situations you're experiencing might be unprecedented, you have to look back at those individuals who have paved the way for equipping you and empowering you to be able to address those situations in the way that you are. I'd love to share a few other quotes, and I won't necessarily provide interpretations because, as I mentioned earlier, all of these interpretations must be personally considered and applied to our own lives in a way that is well crafted, in a way that is specific to the journeys that we are walking. So here's a quote on akinkanju, or bravery. A thoughtless, powerful man is not better than a lazy man. How about inurere, or goodwill towards others? If the right hand washes the left and the left hand washes the right, both hands will be clean. Finally, how about ise, or hard work? Hard work is the medicine of poverty. There are many other proverbs associated with the aspects of Iwapele and the development of oneself into an Omoluabi. And I encourage you to not only seek these other proverbs out, but continue to consider how these 8 virtues come up in day-to-day life. The beauty of proverbs is that they are applicable across the ages. And while some may have their roots in concepts hundreds or even thousands of years old, they can still guide us towards the development of good character in the expansion of our spiritual practice today. Thank you very much.
With the egg, you're putting all the prayers, all the things that you want the egg to absorb, the things that you want to release. That's what you want to put into the egg, okay? And it's going to go into the ground of the bag. And then with the grains, you're calling in all those things that you want to come in. So you offer your egg up to the 4 corners, to the east, to the west, to the north, to the south. Okay, and then you start with your ori. Oh, that's right, you pray into it first. And you start with your ori. And hopefully you're maintaining your ritual so that this part is a smooth flow. You're not spending an hour talking into the eggs. That's when you know that some rituals may be skipped. Okay, nice and slow around the head. You go to the left and you release to the right. You go to the left, you gather it all up and you release to the right 3 times. Face, neck, back of the neck, down the non-dominant hand, and on the other hand, your chest down, your back down. And your back under your feet. And then you gently put the egg into the bag. You start with your grains. You just pick up some grains. You always remember where you're starting from. You put it in 2 hands, both hands equally. And then you start again, you're just repeating around the head, down the front of the face, back of the neck, the chest, the hands, and down all the way to the front, then to the back, and then under your feet, and then release those grains into the bag, and then you do the same thing.